Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions
Hello.
League semi-finals. Of course, we have our dream team to analyze: Real Madrid, Man City, and Milan, Inter. Hello, Dani. Hello,
Ciao,
Alvaro.
ciao, ciao, ciao.
We
Hello,
already have
hello.
someone here from Italy, Benjamin. Of course, we
Hi,
have to
Benjamin.
focus a lot on Italy. So let's analyze the game. Remember, guys, to leave your tips as always and press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And let's focus, let's analyze in depth these two games on Tuesday. Real Madrid, Man City, again, second year in a row. We have these semi-finals, and people say is the best football game we can see in Europe. And I'm not surprised, though, but the bookies place Man City as really favorite, not only for the whole tie, but also for this game at Bernabeu. Alvaro is always saying that the bookies look down Real Madrid in the Champions League. Here we have, again, another time, Alvaro, Real Madrid, the underdog in their own stadium.
They are. Well, they were last year as well, or they were last year in the tie, definitely against Manchester City too. And at the end, Real Madrid ended up going through in that magic night for all Real Madrid supporters, magical night. So this game anyway. Odds aside, it's very difficult to call. I mean, even if I hadn't checked the odds, if you asked me like 72 hours ago, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing that happens in this game will surprise me. I have different narratives to explain a win, a draw, a defeat. Really, because possibilities are here pretty much infinite, and I don't discard anything really. If Real Madrid wins, it's very easy to talk about their mentality, to resort to the power of Santiago Bernabeu in the Champions League nights. If they lose, we will end up talking about Haaland, how Pep Guardiola finally won at Santiago Bernabeu as a Manchester City coach, as he did in 2020, I believe, but last season he lost there. So this is so tricky and so difficult that a couple of things have to be mentioned. Number one, that there are always unconventional routes to making money, and I'm going to explore them with you. And number two, that the second leg is in Manchester, and this places a very fundamental difference between the tie last year and the tie this year. I think that the second leg being in Manchester is going to help a lot Manchester City, because last season Real Madrid used the Bernabeu factor against Manchester City at some point. For Real Madrid, this game is all they care about right now, unlike Manchester City, because they won the Cup final in the weekend. They are not going to win La Liga, and this is the only competition left where they can win a title. So unfortunately for them, they couldn't rotate in the weekend. They have to use their best players, some of them less minutes, like for example Luka Modric. Some of them they played the full 90 minutes, and good news is that Luka Modric is ready to play a little bit at least. Mendy is ready too if needed, and who knows, maybe he gets some playing time as well, because Eder Militao, a defender who is not playing very well lately, is out for the game, I believe. So Rudiger and Alaba will have to play probably as central defenders, and then Camavinga on the left back, or maybe Nacho. And then the Vinicius factor is going to be fundamental in this game too, because Vinicius is playing so well and he's playing so intensely, and he's doing so many things on the wing that I guess that Pep Guardiola will probably have to modify a little bit his approach against Bayern and play with Kyle Walker just to try to stop Vinicius. For Manchester City, 10 straight wins in the Premier League. They rotated a lot in the weekend. A lot. Not Haaland, but many other important players. Manchester City didn't win away at Germany, by the way, in the last 16 round, neither in the quarterfinals, as far as I can remember, against Bayern. And the question for me is whether Walker will play or not. This is one of the questions. But there is something that arises at Manchester City every now and then. The vulnerability of their mind. They are prone to suffer catastrophic meltdowns during the game. And for example, the other day against Leeds United, they almost suffered one when Gundogan missed that penalty that Guardiola didn't want him to take. Then Rodrigo Moreno scored the goal, and suddenly Manchester City looked about to lose that game. Fortunately for them, they didn't. But they've got always a vulnerability. In many games, they've got those 5 minutes in which they lose everything. It happened to them against Aston Villa last season. They almost lose the title at home. But the good thing for Manchester City is that lately they are recovering from that. So for this game, let me go to the odds very quickly, and I will let Daniele talk. Number one, I'm going to go for the shots on target because I believe that this game is going to have many. So, for example, Haaland to have 2 or more shots on target. I like it, 167. Jack Grealish to have 1 or more shot on target, and he's going to start for sure. It's very tempting too. That pays 183. And for example, against Arsenal, we saw how Manchester City shifts the ball from the right to the left with Haaland passing to Grealish, and then Grealish can take a shot. So maybe Grealish to take at least one shot, 183 is good. But my favorite ones here are definitely these ones. Vinicius to score or assist, 2.2, and both teams to score, 161. These two are very good ones, and I really like them.
Well, most of the people, Dani, expect goals. We have some comments already from Benjamin. Both teams to score over 2.5 goals. But Real Madrid is negotiating differently this season, the Champions League games. They look much more reliable in defense and controlling the games much more than last season, for sure.
They are, but if you look at the Real Madrid numbers defensively, they are worse than last season, Edu. I think if you look in both La Liga and in the Champions League, Real Madrid have conceded more goals. Last season in La Liga, Real Madrid they conceded 31 goals in the entire season. Now they already conceded 32. They conceded 8 in the Champions League, and even against Chelsea, the Chelsea who cannot buy a goal almost, they almost conceded a goal in the second leg. Whereas I think on the other hand, Manchester City defensively this season have improved. Yes, they conceded more, but because in the middle part of the season, I think they were less effective with the ball. They were not moving the ball really well, so they were defending less well with the ball. But they become stronger defensively, and I think that could be the key. Manchester City, in previous season, has never crashed out of the Champions League because they couldn't score goals. They always crashed out because they conceded too many. Last season, they conceded 6 against Real Madrid, and that was the pitfall. If you do go back to when they were eliminated under Manuel Pellegrini in 2016, 2017, they conceded 6 or 5 against Monaco. It's always been the defensive issues there, not the non-ability to score goals. If I look at the two teams, I think the one that has improved defensively this season is probably Manchester City. Obviously, Alvaro has mentioned the suspension of Militao, who's going to affect them. Manchester City might have an issue with ACCA not being there, so obviously Guardiola will have to think about a replacement. But yes, I do think Walker, it's due to start to try and contain Vinicius. Look, this is a fascinating tie. It is the tie between the pragmatism of Ancelotti against the theory of Guardiola, and I think these two managers, they could not be more different in their approach, and see who prevails. And I would imagine the pragmatism approach of Ancelotti will suggest Madrid is going to leave the ball to Manchester City, is going to drop back a little bit more, try to close the space, and try to hit them on the counter. The weapon the Real Madrid can have is that they can hit long passes, long ball with Toni Kroos, especially when he moves into the left with the space left by Camavinga, and he can hit a 50 meters pass on the pathway of Vinicius Jr. Of course, this could be a weapon, the counter-attack and the long balls to unsettle Manchester City defense. But on the other hand, Manchester City have something they didn't have last year, which is the direct play, the ball into Alan's feet or onto spaces that can cause trouble to a Real Madrid side that, as I said, defensively, it looks to me a little bit worse off than last season. If you look at both teams, and I would like also to know what Alvaro thinks about it. Who has improved the most compared to last season? I would say Manchester City. They got more solutions. They got more bows, to their arrow. More arrows to the bows. That's the other way around. Whereas Real Madrid, I don't think they have improved as much, but they do obviously come from a very, very high standard. Look, Manchester City, no defeats since February, so I do see them favorites here. Alvaro, what do you think?
Yeah, of course, Manchester City has improved a lot, and the direct play of possibility they've got now, just sending long balls to Haaland, is something they didn't have last year. And I think that without Eder Militao, Real Madrid is going to suffer a little bit more, because Militao would be the one who is so fast, who could actually, race with Haaland and be able to tackle him the right way. But Manchester City has improved more, yes, but I wouldn't say that Real Madrid is significantly worse. And then in the Champions League, Real Madrid's numbers are pretty decent or very good as well. So I think Real Madrid will step up too. There are a couple of considerations here. Number one, I would like to say that the goalkeepers may make a difference, because I do believe that Real Madrid has a goalkeeper who is better. And Thibaut Courtois is a better shot stopper. Unlike Ederson, who is a good goalkeeper, pivotal in the distribution, in the build-up, and of course, he is the best goalkeeper Guardiola can have right now. But when it comes to the big moments, I think that Thibaut Courtois, he's got an extra save in him, and Ederson doesn't. I can barely remember games in which Ederson has been as miraculous as Thibaut Courtois was, for example, in the Champions League final last year. And I think that this could play a little factor too. Thibaut Courtois is actually capable of doing something very special every night. And then, with Real Madrid, I was very positively surprised about the high pressure they put on, for example, Chelsea in the game at Santiago Bernabeu. Chelsea didn't have the ball after the 10th minute. And, I didn't know that Real Madrid could do that. I didn't know, but they could, because now with the fresh legs, they've got Tchouaméni, who is not playing fantastically, but is definitely physical, Fede Valverde, Vinicius, Rodrigo. I mean, these players are very young as well, and the pressure they can put there is something that Real Madrid wasn't doing last year. And maybe this has been a little improvement of Real Madrid over the last year, the high pressure up front. So the game is going to be fascinating, as you say. Let me justify just why I pick my odds very quickly, because I have it written here, and I think that the listeners deserve to listen to this. I mean, Real Madrid average 7 shots on target per game in the Champions League. I know that against Manchester City is going to be more difficult to shoot on target, but that's why, for example, going for Real Madrid to have 5 or more shots on target, which pace 2, will be very good, because Real Madrid in the Champions League is doing something like that or even more. And then the reason why Haaland to have 2 or more shots on target is because Haaland has literally 2 shots on target per game in the Champions League too. So I think that this is one of the reasons why I'm picking this one. And when it comes to Vinicius, just very quickly, I think that we are before the best winger in Europe, and maybe one of the best 5 players in the world right now. There is an image of Vinicius that for me is very iconic right now already, which is him going to the byline and over there just lifting his head like this and looking at Karim Benzema to pass him the ball. I mean, you could do a non-fungible token about that, because it's definitely the picture of Vinicius this season. He did it against Osasuna again the other day in the first minute of the game. In the byline, he dribbled past 2 players and he got still the pose and the composure to pass that ball. So I think that Kyle Walker will have to be very wary of that, and I think that this is the reason why he's going to play. If Vinicius is good, Real Madrid is going to have a massive chance. But at the same time, the bad thing about Vinicius is that it's so obvious that you have to give him the ball for something to happen that maybe Real Madrid can become predictable. So over there, the Vinicius factor for me is going to be the key one in this game.
Rodrigo has been also great. He scored the 2 goals in the final. He was pivotal also last season, scoring a brace to go to the extra time. Dani, do you expect also goals for this game, or are you going to go against the majority, I guess? And perhaps, I remember this is the 3rd time these teams meet in the semifinals. The first time was with Pellegrini on the bench, and Real Madrid went to the final, keeping clean sheets in both games. It's another era, another players, but that was the reality.
I'm with Alvaro. Never underestimate how good goalkeeping is at this level of the Champions League, how good defensive is, and also how well drilled are the teams. Look, last season, Manchester City missed a lot of chances in the first leg and a lot of chances in the second leg. Any other day, they would have qualified with 3 or 4 goals advantage. Are they going to commit the same mistake? I don't know. They're going to have a lot of chances, I think. Yes, probably. But it could be a tight game. If you have to go into tips here, I like the Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Manchester City. I think it pays extremely well, 197, considering that you got a little bit of a parachute. If they draw, you get half your money back. Or you can go for under 3 goals, 178. I think 3 goals in a semi-final, in a Champions League semi-final first leg, is a quite high tally. So if you go under 3 goals, if it's 2-1 each way or 3-0 each way, you still get your money back. Of course, less than 3 goals, you win. We need to also consider one thing. If you're looking, for example, at the cards market or at the fouls market, yellow cards are wiped out in the Champions League after the quarterfinals, and also they get wiped out after the semifinals, which means if a player picks up 2 yellows, first leg and second leg, they still gonna play the final, and also they're gonna miss it only if they get a straight red. I think it's a way, obviously, for UEFA to guarantee that the best players are gonna play the final. I think for me it's a little bit of a nonsense. If you get booked in the 2 legs, you should still
for me, it makes a lot of sense. I mean,
No,
why
but-
should a player miss a final just because he got 2 yellows? I mean, it's not proportional.
because it's an
The
infraction.
punishment is not proportional to the offense. The punishment is not proportional to the offense.
It depends what the yellow is for. If
No,
Vinicius is
then
clear
it's
on
a
goal,
red.
and no, if
it's a heavy yellow, it's a red. Then yes, you miss a final. But for a yellow, it's not proportionate.
But you're getting yellows twice in a row. You need to be able also to control yourself.
And that's enough to miss the most important game of your career? I don't think so.
Games
I
in a
think
row
that
for
was
me
one of the
it
things that UEFA, fortunately stopped.
No, but I think they're trying obviously to preserve the show and the spectacle, and I do understand it. But okay, yeah, but lows are lows. I mean, if you get booked twice, anyway. But it is something to take into account. Maybe for the second leg, there could be more fouls, there could be more bookings. Obviously, it could be a little bit more of a wild game. I did check the stats last season. The first leg of the semifinals, same rule applied. Didn't have many bookings. It was way below 3 bookings. So it's not necessarily means that it's going to become the Battle of Nuremberg between Portugal and Netherlands
in the other game
in 2006. Maybe in the other game. We'll see. But, it's something to take into account. But anyway, for me, City favorite with a little bit of a parachute. You get your money back with the Asian handicap minus 0.25.
I have to say that, in my opinion, this Real Madrid is way better than last season, despite the La Liga tournament they are doing. In the big games, they are controlling much more the pace and the game, and not relying on the luck as last season.
Real Madrid lost against Leipzig, almost lost against Leipzig.
Yeah, but they were qualified.
Almost lost against Shakhtar. Rudiger saved them from a defeat in Poland.
Yeah,
and
last year they played against Sheriff too, and we know that Sheriff had only 2 shots on target.
They are delivering. I would be very surprised. We saw Rooney, saying that Real Madrid was gonna be wiped out about the game, that Man City was gonna smash Real Madrid, and I have several doubts. But as Alvaro said, everything is possible in this time. It's very difficult to predict, and it's good to go for side bets, as you are recommending, guys. Andras is going for Man City -1, Asian handicap -1. They will want revenge. For sure, they will want revenge. Let's see if they are able to take it. Both teams to score. For Nasir, if we go for the to qualify market, by the way, I want to highlight this. Man City super favorites 1.38, Real Madrid 3.5. If we go to win the Champions League, by the way, these 2 teams are the 2 favorites to win the Champions League. No matter who is going to go through, they will be massive favorites for the game in Istanbul.
Yes.
Tell me, which team are you backing in this Real Madrid Man City, the best team in Europe, against the current champion? And then on Wednesday, probably here we see a lot of cards. We have Derby de la Madonnina. We have Milan Inter again in the Champions League. History is with Milan in this competition. They got both great victories at the weekend, but this season we saw Inter better than Milan in the head-to-head, Dani, and I can say that I'm also surprised to see these odds, to see Inter favorite for this game.
Because there is a big question mark on this game, whether Rafael Leao is going to play or not. He had a injury, a muscular injury on Saturday against Lazio against 10 minutes, and he's doubtful. Well, probably is more than doubtful. He's gonna miss the first leg, and they're gonna obviously keep him for the second leg. Now, without Leao, only one win in 8 games for Milan when Leao didn't start the game or wasn't there. This season, 2 games he didn't play at all. 2 defeats for Milan. By the way, defeat in the derby as well in League 1-0 when he was bench. Now, I'm not saying that Milan is only Leao, but we saw it against Napoli. It's mostly Leao and his acceleration and his counter-attacks and obviously the turn of possession. It is a Milan that, by the way, comes into this game with a lot of confidence after a very good performance against Lazio when they didn't concede them a single shot on target, dominated the game, and it was a game of pure resilience, strength, collective spirit, which is exactly what win the Milan the Scudetto last season, 1 point above Inter. So the last champions, Napoli won it this year. So the champions of the last 2 seasons, without the one that is being played, face each other. This is a very evenly matched game. They face each other a lot last season, also in the semi-final of the Coppa Italia. This season in the Supercoppa, Inter got a slight advantage in the head-to-head in the knockout game, but they will have to face a Milan side that is very sturdy, is very resilient. Only 1 goal conceded from Milan in 6 games in the Champions League, despite facing more than 86 shots on target. And you saw what they did against Napoli. Look, I think both teams at the moment are more comfortable when playing without the ball, especially Milan. They are very happy to leave the ball to the opposition. And in fact, their stats, the possession percentage in Champions League are below 50%. In the return game against Napoli, they only had 27% of possession, but they are able to hit you on transition. The Milan game plan is going to be try to press high, try to impose the rhythm of the press, especially with Bennacer going and almost biting on the ankles of Brozovic or whoever is receiving the first ball from Onana, and try to obviously steal the ball from there and let Inter play in their own half and turn the game with quick transition. But of course, without Leao, the game changes a little bit. Salemakers, I would expect, instead of Rebic, being deployed there. On the other hand, Inter is getting better. Obviously, he's in a very good moment of form. Last 5 games have been wins. 14 goals scored in the last 4 games. Lukaku is he looks like a different player. He's much more of a team player, is more informed. 3 goals and 3 assists in the last 3 games. Lautaro, 15 goals scored after the World Cup. So yeah, they are firing up, and Inzaghi finally can count on all his star players. He didn't have Lukaku and Brozovic for such a long time. It's gonna be a fascinating battle, especially in midfield. The 3 Milan midfielders, Tonali, Krunic, and Bennacer, can match up to Brozovic or Çalhanoğlu, Mkhitaryan, and Barella. Obviously, Inter is a more physical side. They need to move the ball quick, especially into wide areas, to create the advantage. Obviously, with the 2 wing backs. Look, it is fascinating. I think there's gonna be a clash of styles as well from Pioli and Inzaghi. But if you look at the history and if you look at the numbers, you look at how this game goes normally, I think you're right, Edu. You can't expect a game that delivers a lot of goals. I've crunched the numbers. Italian teams have met in Europe 19 times in European competition. 7 of these games were finals. In total, there were 34 games since the first one played in 85-86 when Juventus played Verona. Now, of these 34 games, 27 of them had 2 goals or less. Obviously, all the games, apart from Milan-Napoli, were played when the away goal rule still counted. So obviously the first leg was tight. But, 27 out of 34 games had 2 goals or less. And all the 9 Champions League games between Italian side or the European Cup games, whatever you want to call it, had 2 goals or less. So these are low-scoring games normally. And I'm going to go for a low scoring game here, not because they can't score goals, but because the first leg of these things, I think, is normally is tight, especially also if the Leao is not there. I'm going to go for an under 2.25 goals, which pays 192. So only 2 goals in the game, you win the stake. More than 2 goals, 3 goals, you lose half your stake. Or I think if you believe this game could end in a draw, I'm going to go for a 1x and under 3.5 goals, 201. Why 1x and not x2? Because 1x pays more than x2. But not because I think Milan are favorite here. Just because it's a mathematical thing. If you go for the double chance, Milan or draw, you get more value than draw or Inter. And under 3.5 goals, that pays 201. That's my pick. But this, again, is a game that you can look and you can read in millions of different ways.
Actually, I think it's wise also going for the under, even if it pays less. Under 2.5 goals, only 1.7. We were checking before the head-to-head between these two teams in other competition, of course, and usually we see goals in the last clashes between Milan and Inter, but this is a different story. And Alvaro, we've seen the approach of both Milan and Inter when it comes to the Champions League. It's not that they were defensive, but they were waiting for the other team. They were usually the underdog in the ties against Porto, against Benfica, against Tottenham, or against Napoli. And this is going to be a different story for both of them.
Yeah, looking at it with a bit of perspective, maybe Inter should have been a little bit more favorite against Benfica and Porto. But yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with the comment you made about the under. And I really like Daniele's combination with the under 3.5 goals and the double chance 1x. In my case, look, I think that, for example, the previous game for me has endless possibilities, and any outcome will be valid for me, and I wouldn't be surprised about anything. But in this game, I think that everything is a little bit more tight, really. And I would be, for example, very surprised if this game gives us something like over 3.5 goals, or if a player scores a brace or something like that. For example, in the previous game, I can see Haaland or Vinicius scoring a brace or having many goals. I can see that. Here, I don't. So, for example, under 2.5 goals is something that I rate and I like, because 167, if we're a little bit lucky, maybe the odds go up and it's 170, is about right for me. This is a game with less superstars than the previous game, and something that you can see very clearly in the odds for the individual market, individual scorer, for example. You know, the lowest payment for the individual scorer market is 2.8, 2.88, and I think that this is a reflection of the situation of both teams, in the sense that, for example, Romeo Lukaku, yes, he's a very good striker when he's in form, but this season he's getting there. Olivier Giroud, for example, Rafael Leao, who is not there, but he's still in the odds. Those are players that don't guarantee necessarily scoring goals, even though they are very good. So there is less faith in Milan and Inter players than in Real Madrid or Manchester City players to do something special. Even though these two sides come in a good moment, it's a great weekend for both, or it has been a great weekend for both. Apart from Napoli, there are 6 Serie A sides that have real chances of qualifying for the Champions League, and I believe that Inter and Milan are going to be there up till the end. When it comes to Inter, just a comment about them. I think that they have been able to raise to the occasion many times this season.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, they have. And, they have beaten, in Italy, they have beaten the best sides as well. I don't know if they have beaten Juve. Maybe this is the only team that they haven't been able to beat. No.
All in Coppa Italia. They beat in Coppa Italia. No, but the thing is against Inter is, look, Inzaghi has been close to be sacked 3 times this season. Before the game against Barcelona, before the game against Porto, before the game against Benfica. And yet he managed to overcome the situation. The things that is criminal about Inter is they lost 11 games in the league, and they lost 18 points with teams that are on the right-hand side of the table. But when it came to the big nights and the right nights, and now in Serie A, that every game is a final because they need to get to the Champions League, they have turned the page completely. Look, in Italy, there is a common knowledge that the 2 teams with the best squad are Juve and Inter. Now, Juve is underperforming. Inter, they had a bit of injuries, but yeah, should be much closer to Napoli by miles, of course.
Yeah, and they have beaten this season Roma, they have beaten Milan,
Lazio.
They have beaten Atalanta. In the Champions League, they have beaten Barcelona deservedly as well. Benfica, Porto. So this Inter side, is certainly dangerous. They have 4 straight wins in the league, and they are 6 games unbeaten in all competitions. Lukaku is getting there, as I said before. He has scored 4 goals. He scored 4 goals in the international break. I think that gave him a little bit of confidence, and then he has scored 5 goals since the international break when it matters. And he scored 1 goal in the last 16 round, another goal in the quarterfinal. There is another player that I really like, and I didn't think that he got that on him, but Bastoni's crossing in the box is much better than I thought. Really good, actually. From the left, he sent the lovely balls to Varela, I think, in one of the ties. Yeah. Really, really, really surprised by that. And then when it comes to Milan, good for them as well. It's a good moment. 9 games unbeaten, and in the last 6 Champions League encounters, they have conceded only 1 goal. Only 1 goal in the knockout stage. The only problem is the Rafael Leao thing. So that's why. If I was ready to go for an individual market, I would go for Rafael Leao. But since he's not going to be there, I guess, because he was limping after 11 minutes, I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals, as I said before, and an Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Milan, AC Milan. Asian handicap plus 0.25, meaning that if they draw, you get half a win. If they win, you win your stake.
By the way, Lukaku is in doubt because surprisingly, Inzaghi is also thinking about Dzeko. Dzeko gives you something else. He's a little bit of an extra midfield to create even more of an overload in central areas, but we'll see. But the form Lukaku is in at the moment, I think he should start. But don't be surprised if Dzeko starts.
Inter had a problem this season when they were playing away, not anymore, because now they are getting the results even away from San Siro. This game is tricky, of course, to be played in San Siro, so not sure. Exactly, not sure if the home away factor is going to be very important for this one, but for sure it can play also a role. And to be honest, I'm surprised to see both home teams really the underdog for the game itself. Also, to qualify, Inter is favorite to go through and go to Istanbul, 1.73 in Ladbrokes. I can see Inter to qualify 2.46, Milan to go back to Istanbul. Let's see if we have Ancelotti and Milan back to Istanbul, where they lost to Liverpool.
Very good comment, by the way, by one of our viewers, actually. Federico Di Marco has had 1 or shot more in 23 of the last 23, 22 of the last 23 in all competition. That's true. And Federico Di Marco has scored 6 and assisted 6 this season. Score, of course, against Roma. Score against Milan in the Super Cup. Is the only defender alongside Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen with such a good numbers.
Well, a lot of individual markets as well to take a look at. Tell me, as always in the comments, who are you backing for these 2 key games? Let's try to put together a best bet in case there is some, although you've already given us so many options, so many bets. Dani, your favorite one?
Manchester City has an handicap plus 0.25 because it's a best bet. Of course, my pick was minus 0.25, but best bet plus 0.25, 156. If you win, they win. If you draw, you only win half a stake. Because it's a best bet, always my suggestion is you can even afford putting 2 or 3 units if you like. Obviously, the return is not huge, so you can be a little bit more ambitious if you want.
Man City drew the last 4 away games in the Champions League, including the 2 in Germany, as Alvaro mentioned, in Leipzig and in Munich. And Alvaro, your best bet?
Yeah, just very quickly. I'm focusing on shots on target a lot in the Real Madrid Manchester City game. That's why if you want to find those shots, you have to go to Unibet, to Betfair, to Bet365, and over there you will have a plethora of odds, and many of them are related to shooting on target. So my safe bet is going to be Real Madrid to have 4 or more shots on target. That pays 1.4.
Real Madrid, of course, they won the title, another title this season on Saturday in the Copa del Rey with a really mild celebration because the eyes, the focus, the importance in this club is
not Dia Libre. Not Dia Libre the next day.
The day after they were working, they were training. And
no Cuba Libre either.
No
Cuba Libre either.
The last time he gave him the Dia Libre, then they lost against Villarreal the next day.
Yeah, this time they are fully focused. By the way, Ceballos is also missing. He picked up an injury. injury and he won't be
Yeah.
available for the game on Tuesday. And Dani, have you put together perhaps a mini ACCA update
Mini
builder?
ACCA couldn't be smaller because only 2 games. Manchester City to score the first goal. Milan Inter first half draw. Put them all together 378.
And Alvaro Romeo?
I think that our producer Daniele had some issues to fit this in a frame, but there you go. There you go. You can see it, no? It's in the screen. It will be Real Madrid to have okay, I'm gonna say this well. Real Madrid to have 4 or more shots on target. Vinicius to have 1 or more shot on target, Haaland to have 2 or more shots on target, and both teams to score in Real Madrid, Manchester City. Altogether, 526. I ignore completely the AC Milan Inter game.
To read it, you need very big glasses.
Yeah, the first graphic actually was not correct. It's not Man City to score first. That was Dani's Fisichella. Yours is Real Madrid, at least 4 shots on target.
At least 4 shots on target.
Yes. If you make it too complicated, then we blame the producer.
you have to be with the notebook watching the game to see if you are winning your bets.
Come on.
Okay, let's see. I mean, maybe in a couple of days, some people are calling me genius.
Yes.
I'm gonna bet just on Real Madrid to win, and that's it. Keep it simple.
And probably good idea as well.
Trying to make my life happier and easier. Okay, Dani, Alvaro, thanks for the analysis. Thanks everyone for watching. This is very tough. We all know all these 4 teams. Let's hope we see 2 great football games, and good luck, of course, to everyone. Thanks, Dani. Thanks, Alvaro. Don't forget to press the like and subscribe. Bye bye.
Ciao. Speak soon.